These are the things that people in the occult, I don't know why they don't have foresight to see. That I am most definitely going to end up regretting this thing. Again, please ignore the speech lag, guys. I tried, like nothing's working, so please, like, have mercy. Alright? Bathwele ngamathamis wabantwana, bathwele ngeinhlanhla zabantu. They have carried demonic entities with their children's wombs. They've carried demonic entities with their family members, their friends, and now they can't enjoy life later on. Now their lives are empty later on. Now they are like Captain Barbossa, the rest of the Black Pearl crew, that even when you shoot them dead, they can't die because they are under the curse of the Black Pearl, that because of stealing that gold. That's what's good. So now going back to thievery, to theft, to stealing, essentially, in spite even of the curse of the Black Pearl, that makes sure that you can't even enjoy life because money is not a motivator. Ultimately, these people become lazy later on. They don't do much. Guys, as the devil, it's written in God's word that he has, the Lord has come on the earth to bring peace, to bring life and life abundantly. But Satan has come to steal, kill, and destroy, right? While Christ has come to give us life and life abundantly. So Satan is aware of the Bible, of course. Like, he studies it more even than some Christians. And so he knows how to get a person condemned. In the parable of the talents in the scriptures, God describes 3 categories of human beings. There's one guy who is given 5 talents. Then there is another guy that's given 2 talents and another guy that's given 1 talent. The guy with the 5 talent goes and makes 5 more. Invests it basically and makes 5 more. So he gets a return on investment of 5 more talents. The guy with the 2 talents goes and makes 2 more and gets a return on investment of 2 more talents. So he's now got 4 talents. The guy with the 5 now has 10. The guy with the 2 now has 4. This guy with the 1 talent goes and buries his 1 talent in the ground. And then basically just gathers dust. And then the master comes back and asks, what have you done with what I've given you? Have you been a steward, a good steward of what I've done for you, of what I've given you? And the dude with the 5 talents is like, yeah, look, I made 5 more. And then the master's like, well done, good and faithful servant. The guy with the 2 talents has made 2 more. Well done, good and faithful servant. This dude asks, what in the world have you done with yours? And his response is, I know you're a hard taskmaster, or something of that nature. I stand corrected as to the exact words over there. And so I hid my talent in the ground just in case it got lost or something. The response of the master is then to call this guy a wicked and a slothful servant. And then he is bound in chains and thrown into the outer darkness. And it is spoken of about him that in that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth for all of eternity. Essentially, for being lazy, he gets thrown into hellfire. Now, the human race is one of these 3 categories. People that are given a lot of giftedness, and then they go on right ahead and get more gifts, and because they invest their gifts and make more. They bear fruit. They give their lives to God, and they go on right ahead to grow from strength to strength and become more and more gifted over the years. And in the end, they've got beautiful legacies to speak about. Then there's the dude in the center who's been given just enough, you know? He's just a regular guy, like an average Joe or an average Jane. But this average Joe and Jane is a hard worker. And therefore, in working hard, the Lord then gives them what they need. They reap what they have sown. Do you understand? So they work like dogs, and after a season of striving, the Lord then gives them a return on their investment. And here it is that they've made 2 more talents, and so well done, also good and faithful servant. Indeed, this can be paralleled to the parable of the seed or the sower, where there are 4 categories of people. The first category, the seed is sown on the ground, and they represent people who hear the gospel word. And then the devil steals it from them straight away, so they don't take Christianity seriously for too long. Then there are the ones who, because of persecution, because of being afflicted, being spoken badly about, being a Christian, they fall away from the faith. That's the second category. They fall on some unfertile ground. I stand corrected as to what the 4 grounds are. So I'm just going to speak about the category of people. And then the third category is of a person that is too focused on the cares of this world, on, you know, getting a job, getting that, to focus on God. So they hear the gospel and they play Christianity, but they're literally not serious. They're like lukewarmers. They essentially essentially are like Laodicean. They neither hot nor cold, and because they're lukewarm, God is going to spit them out their mouth. So they don't walk away from Jesus. They just are not working for Jesus. They're working for this earth to juice it as much as possible. Third category, cares of this world take them away. So they bear absolutely no fruit. But then there's the fourth category of people who hear the word rejoice, go out there and strive, and then they bear fruit. It is written, listen up, 30-fold over, 60-fold over, or 100-fold over. So this last category can be paralleled to the parable of the talents, in that the guy that bears 100-fold over fruit is like the dude with the 5 talents that makes 5 more. But the guy that bears that makes 2 more talents, having been given 2 talents, then goes on to maybe represent the guy that gives that bears fruit 30-fold over or 60-fold over. They're all servants of the living God. It's just that others have got much bigger jobs than others, and so based on what it is that the Lord God Almighty will do with you here on earth, once He calls you and you successfully respond to the call, you are then given a measure of grace or of faith. So you, based on your job, will be given a suite of gifts. You will be given talents based on what you're supposed to do with them. And if you've been given 5 talents, it's because God will have you do a big job. You're a bit of a Martin Luther. You got to bring about the Protestant Reformation. So He's going to give you 5 talents, and with those talents, you make 5 more. And then there's the regular good old-fashioned mom that plants chrysanthemums and bakes casseroles in the church and serves that way with her talent of baking. It's small scale, but it is still fruitful and beautiful. She's bearing 30-fold over or maybe 60-fold over for God. Nonetheless, she's working for God. 2 talents, she's made 2 more. God has given her more giftedness, improved her skill in baking, because with it she is serving the body of Christ and is a bit of a humanitarian in the community, helping the orphans and all that jazz. Cool. There's that mama, there's that Martin Luther type dude, and then there's the guy that is born with a suite of talents. You know how the scriptures say many are called but few are chosen. They're born with a suite of talents. God calls them, says, come work for my kingdom because I've given you 1 talent. That's what's good, and I want you to use it for my sake. And this person then buries that talent in the ground. Now that whole burial process is precisely what people abatwalayo do, and people that don't give their lives to Jesus Christ do. They waste their giftedness on all manner and kinds of random strange stuff, and the ramifications of it are evident on earth first and foremost. So if you're not making an additional talent, that in and of itself is a ramification. That should make you repent and suddenly basically go back and dig out that talent in the ground, dig it out, and then start to invest it, be a better steward, and do better. But people don't do better. Again, guys, I do apologize for the speech lag, and so far as you can hear me, that's all that matters, okay? And this is all the phone I have. That's what's good. Yeah, but these people, batwalayo, they get made lazy. The Bible calls them wicked and slothful servants. They are wicked and slothful. They are slovenly. Do you understand? Because over time, if you bury your talent in the ground, if you steal to get ahead, you might start out really hardworking. You might have, when you were a kid, been the brightest kid in your classroom. I had so many colleagues from MTN that were like magna cum laude graduates from university that put witchcraft. It's like you didn't have to do that. You did not have to, because you were already sweeted so very much with so much talent that you could have thrived and kicked buttock up the corporate ladder because you were just naturally very gifted. You would have done this single-handedly without additional extra help from Asangoma. But out of greed and selfishness and wanting to get ahead and push their agenda along, they then used sorcery. Now, what happens to people like these? I have seen it in my own family. I witness it pretty much every day, actually, where it is that a person started out jongiti, like they were hard working. 5 randa. They would work 3 days worth of just to get $5. Lo muntu mega pusha, natural grinder. Do you understand? Always cleaning. The sibling that will annoy you because she's always washing the dishes. Always busy pizza. Even though she's not told by mom. She has not been instructions, but she works anyway. You know those people, right? Yeah. I know of people in my life that used to be like that, because I grew up with them, and some of them even raised me. They used to work like dogs. Basically nothing. And then they taught themselves witchcraft. That's what's good. And witchcraft then, upon them saying to themselves, oh, the stuff works. When they notice that it works, when they notice that it brings into their lives ill-gotten gain, all of a sudden they stop putting in as much work into everything they do. It happens everywhere. Here it is that you have cast a spell to pull the rug from under the feet of a colleague. I knew a colleague actually that used to work like a dog. She was a program coordinator and she wanted to become a project manager. They passed her up. She cried through her toys out the cot because indeed she was working like a dog to get the promotion. She ultimately got the promotion. One of the people that put witchcraft on my particular life, I am pretty certain today from what the Lord is showing me that she is no longer as hardworking as she used to be. She was one of the most hardworking people with her eyes dotted and T's crossed that I knew. But I am 100% sure that now today, she rocks up in the office in 6 saying 6. She would be in the office, and she was there before anybody else could even wake up at home. Do you understand? I'm pretty sure that now today, she's the kind of person to rock up at 9 a.m. and leave the office at like 3:30 because we're working flexi time and ain't nobody gonna notice, and then sends a whole bunch of emails at like 11 p.m. at night to look like she's busy working off the campus from work. I knew of people that I personally saw just literally slip downwards when they were given an opportunity or a promotion when they didn't deserve it. It makes them lazy. So people who do witchcraft, they make an observation that this stuff works. Witchcraft does work. I stole a colleague's career and she lost her job. I bewitched my boss to give me the promotion and she gave it to me. So why in the world do I have to put in this much time and effort, for crying out loud, when it's gonna come in anyway because I know how to manipulate things spiritually? They stop putting in the time. They stop chiseling their little statues. They stop polishing themselves. They stop working to get ahead. They stop working hard to get ahead, you guys. And they just sit back and watch witchcraft do its thing. So when you don't study as hard anymore, you're supposed to not pass as well. But if you're going to manipulate your lecturer to give you better marks because you have somehow done a ritual, where is the knowledge really that you acquire that actually makes you a cut above the rest? It's not there in your mind. You have manipulated people into thinking you have it, but it's not really there. When you cut corners in your job, but people praise you and accolade you anyway, there is nothing at all that you're gaining. Reward, negative, what is this? Operant conditioning is also the thing that makes witches continue to do whatever rubbish it is that they're doing. Operant conditioning is basically negative and positive reinforcement. Positive reinforcement is when a child does well in school and the mother buys her a Barbie doll. That is positive reinforcement. So you know that next time when you do well, your mama's gonna buy you something nice. So that behavior is reinforced where you keep on doing it over and over again because you're anticipating a new toy. Negative reinforcement, however, is you don't do your homework and your teacher flogs you. You get scourged, you get hit, you get punished, you get grounded, your phone gets taken away from you when your mother gets a letter from the school telling her that your daughter's not doing homework. And so next time you do homework because you don't want your phone to get taken. Next time you do homework because you don't want to get hit, you don't want to get flogged. Next time you do your homework because you don't want the negative ramifications. So that's operant conditioning. Both methods are effective and frankly, depending on the situation, you can employ it in order to enforce behavior in an ecosystem. It's not necessarily just because something is negative reinforcement does not mean it's bad. Sometimes some people do need a spanking. They need a rod on their back to get their act together. You know what I mean? So discipline is negative reinforcement, whereas reward is positive reinforcement. So it's punishment and reward. Well, when you reward behavior, you positively reinforce that particular behavior. You make sure that people looking forward to what it is that that behavior is going to achieve then roll in that behavior. Unfortunately, witchcraft initially, the behavior to continue in it is motivated by positive reinforcement, following which it is demotivated by negative reinforcement. So positive reinforcement in witchcraft is that you cast a spell and then you make an observation that it works. And in spite of not doing anything at all to deserve praise and accolade, you get it. So people, rah, they congratulate you, they reward you for insanity. And so you just keep doing what you're doing. Therefore, your behavior is reinforced in that regard. By behavior, I mean, you know that you don't gotta do much in order to get ahead. So you then basically stop being hardworking because you know you're going to get ahead anyway because you know witchcraft. So essentially the behavior that is reinforced in your body positively by partaking in the fruitless deeds of darkness is laziness. You become lazy over time. You have literally trained your body to be rewarded for not working, and so you become more of a sloth than you ever were before. You have buried your talent in the ground. Let us save. Again, I'm sorry, I just have to put out there that there is a speech lag, okay? So have mercy on me. At least you can hear what I'm saying. That's all that matters. Yeah. I was speaking about negative and positive reinforcement. Negative reinforcement in sorcery, however, in due season, ultimately, what that does is that because of the observation of a loss of respect. Because eventually a loss of respect comes because it catches up with them. Over time, people make an observation that this person that is dwelling among us, okay, where's her child? Like, completely disappeared from society. The first year of a witch's success, there is no evidence of the fact that they are witches. The second and the third, maybe no evidence. But after 10 years have progressed, and you're the only person in your family that is successful, while everybody else is groveling, struggling, scanning groceries at the Pick and Pay, unable to get any better job than that, it becomes clear then, even to family members, that it becomes clear, even to family members, that you have done something to make sure you're the only person in the family that is successful. Time ends up negatively reinforcing witches to now want to stop, but by then they've packed heavy. By then they are bag ladies. By then they are so deeply involved in the occult. They've killed so many people. They've shed so much blood. They have sacrificed so many things that abatembeki, nobody trusts them, and in and of themselves they're burdened, and they're scared to do anything else. They don't trust Jesus because they've seen so much darkness in the occult that they don't think Christ is powerful enough to rescue them from that. Given what it is that the devil has deceived them in looking at, rather, he has made them feel as if the occult is so powerful that no one can escape it, and they were the ones to have a magic wand to control this particular power. And now that they want to get out, they get scared to even leave because they imagine that even Christians are bewitchable. Look at my life. Witches in my life literally believe that I am under their spells. Even though I am a strong delusion, I keep on saying that. The Lord has handed them over to their reprobate mind, that they might believe that I'm actually under some spells. And so when they look at my life, they're like, even Jesus is not going to help me. Even Jesus, because look at how Karabo has held on to Jesus, and she's going nowhere. But by then, they are Captain Barbosa in Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl. They are pirates that have stolen some treasure, some gold. They want to return it, but they don't know how. They don't know how in the world under heaven to get out from the darkness. They've lost friends, they've lost family, they've lost legacies. They're mothers whose children cannot have children, and so they can't be grandmothers. Now, when your kids are out of the age where nobody has any kids, when your kids are still young, like teenagers, if you've bewitched your children so they're not okay, when they're still teenagers, you're not going to see the ramifications of those actions. It's when they drop out of university or they graduate from university and can't get jobs that it's going to catch up to you. It's when you are now the only auntie in the family that does not have your own grandchildren. So it's like you're barren. You're now the only woman. You're now the only woman among your friends whose children are unemployed or whose children can't get ahead. So the things that your friends are basically celebrating and gloating about. Oh, my daughter graduated. Oh, my daughter got promoted to senior manager. Oh, my daughter got promoted to executive. Oh, my daughter's the CEO of MTN. Oh, my daughter. Now, here it is that your friends are saying, my daughter is this as the years progress, because your kids are now starting to become middle-aged. Your kids in and of themselves are now old enough to basically be somebody's boss type thing. But your kid is sitting at the back of your house gathering dust while your friends keep talking about how their daughters just got their doctorate degrees, how their daughters just got promoted to executive, how their daughters are painting the town red, flying all over the world, ambassadors of other countries and whatnot. Their daughters are winning Pulitzer Prizes for writing beautiful books. That's what's good. But yours is gathering dust at the back of your house, even though she was a genius. That is what uktwala does. That is what twalaring with friends, family members. That is what messing with darkness does. And when then that's the case, you become Captain Barbosa. When you are the only mother who cannot celebrate malobola, like bridal price. When a man is not rocking up, knocking on your door, trying to marry your daughter, trying to ask for permission to marry your daughter. When you're that woman, because you came up against your daughter's marriage prospects, or you came up against your daughter, like you literally made a contract with the devil that your daughter can never get married or have children. And so you become the one mother out of a crew of 7 friends who never get to experience amalobola being brought home, who never get to experience a firstborn child from one of your children coming from you. That's when this. And so money is no longer a motivator on that day. Now you are negatively reinforced. You want to get out of the occult, but you've made an observation about Christians where it is that basically what looks like their unanswered prayer is evidencing that there's no way that I can ever get out of this. Because ke rapetse and Karabo wa rapela mara ke mo modimo teng o mo tlogetse. Karabo is a prayer warrior and she's only held on to Jesus, but look at how her life has fallen apart. That's the strong delusion. That is the strong delusion, oh Captain Barbosa. That is the strong delusion. That is the thing that ransacks witches in the end. Negative reinforcement. But remember what they did. They got lazy because they easily acquired stuff. They have carried demons using other people's prosperity. They've stolen. And in stealing like this, in and of themselves, therefore, then became lazy. They're the slothful servant. They are the slothful servant that bury their talent in the ground. And in that place there is weeping and gnashing of teeth. But the Bible says this about them even before they get to a point where they are now getting sent to hellfire. God says of them, woe to you through whom offenses came. You made people lazy. Positive reinforcement initially makes witches carry on with what they're doing. But then later on, negative reinforcement makes them want to stop, but by then they feel all heavied. In the run-up to reward that they gained for being evil, because they were manipulating the minds of everybody. They manipulated bosses to give them promotions. They manipulated colleagues to congratulate them, even though they did not earn their salary increases. They did not earn their job promotions. They did not earn being pushed along so easily. There are other people that make an observation of this that are sober, that are not under spells, that are like, why in the world does she get ahead when she does nothing? My cousin is like that, where it is that she's got colleagues that can't stand her because she has been like just pushed along in a way that is suspect. It is suspect. That's more negative reinforcement. People eventually make an observation that something does not add up. There are people that eventually that make observations that something does not add up, but the great majority of people push them along. And the observation that something does not add up that they gauge from others is the thing that also makes them maybe like slow down with witchcraft, but it doesn't make them stop. They try to blend in. They try to fit in because initially they make like amateur criminals that after robbing a bank they go on a shopping spree. Then people suspect them of such things as these, and then next time they spend less money, but they nonetheless still spend stolen money. Yeah, the midpoint of their insanity is one where they calm down because people are making an observation. The beginning point is where they're splurging. They're just splurging because nobody's onto them yet. Then their people start to get onto them. Then they calm down. But in the end, the observation of how much they have lost is what makes them want to stop altogether. But by then they're so deep in the darkness that they don't even think there is a way out. They don't even believe in Jesus because Jesus has sent them such a strong delusion by basically not delivering their victims on time that they think that there isn't even a solution in them. And that's the thing that finally kills them. That is the thing that finally fulfills the prophecy of the parable of the talents with the guy that buries his one talent in the ground, that is called the slothful servant. His eventuality is to be in that place where there is weeping and gnashing of teeth for all of eternity, and the smoke of his torment rises up forever. They end up going to hell because they don't even trust Jesus to rescue them. Basically the curse of the black pearl. They don't trust Jesus to rescue them, to take them out from the darkness, because they think Christ does not deliver. Except herein lies Jesus. He says that do not grow weary of doing good, for in due season you will reap the peaceful fruit of righteousness if you don't give up. So long suffering and patience is a fruit of the Holy Spirit that says you gotta wait to get what you want in prayer. So we as Christians know that waiting is part of the Christian game. This waiting season, however, because witches or people into ill-gotten gain microwave babies into instant gratification due to getting things that they want quickly, quick money, quick success, quick whatever, they are put off by the duration of time it takes for a believer to wait on the Lord to ultimately get their answered prayer. It is written in God's word that neither eye has seen, nor ear has heard, nor mind conceived the things which God has prepared for those who wait on him. Yeah, so what we eventually get is out of this world, like it's just astronomically unfathomable how great it is, but it comes after a very long amount of time. The long amount of time of which the season of waiting, upon it being observed by the wicked, then imagine that God has left us. He's just abandoned us. He's not going to have our back. But remember, long suffering and sorrow and being tested brings about perseverance. Perseverance of which brings about what? Character of which brings what? Hope. So God is building character in us. He is sanctifying us through the process of testing and waiting, following which we will then get everything we need, lacking in nothing. Just as David ultimately got his promise, just like Joseph ultimately getting his promise, however, first preceded by what? Lots of sorrow and suffering of which was doing what? Preparing them for the acquisition of their later position. So David ultimately became king of Israel, whereas and also Joseph ultimately became became the prime minister of Egypt. If at all he was not trained in humility in the run-up to, he would have been an idiot king. Because that's what is written about a person that goes from rags to riches in the scriptures. The earth cannot bear up under them. A peasant that takes over the position of a king is a snare to society, because they have not been trained by suffering, by fortitude, all of that which character builds in the body by pain is absent in these people. So a person that becomes a king without working for it, it's just a danger. It's just a danger in an ecosystem. Do you understand what I'm saying? A peasant that becomes a king is devastating, but it's different from a child that inherits a kingdom, because they were raised already in royalty, so they can take on the reins. That's how lineages have progressed all throughout the ages. But a person that was once upon a time a pauper, poverty-stricken, and today they're in a king's palace, they are literally a menace to society. They first got to be trained up. David was humble in his upbringing, as Jesse's kid, tending to sheep and whatnot, etc. He had to first be trained before he could just suddenly inherit the kingdom. Similarly too with Joseph, his family was not necessarily poverty-stricken or whatever, but he was just a regular dude. He was not necessarily prime minister type material. He had to be trained through fortitude, long suffering, and pain and sorrow to inherit such a big position ultimately. Alright? But these people, these witches, they're ill-gotten gainers. They get stuff like overnight, like that. So what do they become? A menace. Literally, the earth cannot bear up under them because they become entitled creeps that yesterday were poor. Yesterday they were poor, today they're wealthy. And so society cannot bear up under them. And that is the thing that gets them exposed ultimately. And their observation of the long-suffering period of a David, or the long-suffering period of a Joseph, that is what makes them underestimate the God of David and the God of Joseph. They look at the waiting period, and so the sorrow, the slavery in Egypt, or in the case of David, the pursuit by Saul. And they're like, Isuka, God is not even there. And that's what kills them. That's what kills them in their sins. The fact that they were into ill-gotten gain, and then later on did not even trust God to deliver them from their sins, to a point of not even repenting, and then they die in their sins. The end result for the larger majority is always death in their sins, because they are made to not trust God. Bakula. They're like the city in South Africa called Orania, that's got white people, and they think they can keep apartheid South Africa thriving in just their own little geographical location. That's what's good. They're crazy. They're a pariah in a country, and frankly everybody looks at them as irresponsible, and their end result in that reprobate state of theirs is death. And then they wake up in eternity and realize that, oh snap, I've been condemned. I've been condemned. This, however, becomes their general problem. Again, I will keep on apologizing for the speech lag. This then becomes their general issue, right? Yeah. I don't even understand why they've made me live with a cat, but whatever. It's things like these that makes them feel like they've gotten one up on me. Like they look at this and they thoroughly imagine that they have conquered, that they have prospered. That's what's good. Nonetheless, anyway, this activity of theirs, alright, is what also causes laziness in people. So that's why, as I'm trying to encourage right now, people that are under spells, or people that have been or feel as if though they've been held hostage by these Satanists, y'all need to give your lives to Jesus, that you might have true hope, alright, and have perseverance built in you. That's what's good, because the Lord ultimately repays that which you have sown. So if you sow patience, you will reap the peaceful fruit of righteousness if you don't give up. Do you understand? You must absolutely sow waiting. And no matter how hard it gets, trust that the Lord will provide for you at like the bare minimum of what it is that you need, until you have got so much abundance that there's so like literally you're pressed down, shaken together, and running over in supply, without guilt, without an evil conscience, without having hurt anybody to get to where you're at. Abantu abatweleng ama family members, for me, are the worst. Those who are carrying demons through family members, those who took the fortune of family members, they're the worst. They're the ones I can't stand the most, because in the end they also work tooth and nail to block those family members from ever breaking through, precisely because of how much they have ruined. And so therefore their inability to celebrate when their family members are now celebrating breakthrough. Well, when a mother cannot stand the prospect of a man ever coming and proposing marriage to her daughter, when a mother can't stomach the prospect of her daughter finally gaining a prosperity, because she will never be able to celebrate her success. She will never be able to sit on a couch in her house and gladly drink tea as a proud mom. because she literally spent years trying to block her from getting ahead. They therefore police their victim. So they end up sitting or standing in front of their victims, trying to make sure they never come out on the other side, because now they can no longer celebrate the prosperity of their victims. They end up like Michelle, David, who, when David was dancing and celebrating entering into a town, she was like, what kind of a king is busy dancing? And David was like, woman, I am celebrating the glory and the joy of the Lord, and that's what I'm going to keep doing. She is jealous because she is umuntu wakudala. She's a person that has lost joy due to her insanity. There is no longer any gladness in her bones, and she can no longer look forward to anything. And so all she can do is be a damper in the step of a person that's looking forward to a bright future. They end up becoming that chock-a-block. I told you, Davy Jones' Curse of the Black Pearl. Not Davy Jones, what is this? Pirates of the Caribbean. Curse of the Black Pearl. They steal, and then they can't eat. They can't enjoy anything. The money that they have made becomes nothing. Money is not a motivator. When you build a legacy as a mama, that is a motivator. That is a motivator. Money is not a motivator. So just to make money, to earn money, to buy a car, to get a house, my goodness, one day it's going to become ash in your mouth. One day you're going to become the chock-a-block, the fruitless thing that is trying to prevent God from breaking your child through. Except when the Lord has spoken, who can speak and have it happen unless the Lord has first decreed it? When the Lord has spoken, can't nobody come up against it. When the Lord has opened the door, nobody can close it. All they can do is be the bane of your existence in the run-up to. They can try and block you from your breakthrough, but if you have waited, you will reap the peaceful fruit of righteousness, because that's what God will have had you do. So go nyotwasa, but not nyotwala. However, let me explain to you what the ramifications of these people's actions are, and why I said in the beginning, woe to the man through whom these offenses come. So people start out hardworking all at the beginning of their lives. If at all they've been born hardworking, if you weren't a slothful, lazy child, trying to get your day's bread. But then others who are desperate are like, I want to push my stuff along. And so batwala, kadi family members, they go and they carry darkness with family members. They bewitch family members and friends so as to push themselves along. So now when you're the victim, now let's talk from the vantage point of being a victim. When you're the victim of an uncle that has decided that they're going to take your fortune to thrive their business, what happens to you, straight A student? You study for mahala at university. You go and you grab yourself your CA or your CFA in your accounting degree, and then you apply and 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 you apply for jobs, and nobody's even trying to interview you, even though you pass magna cum laude or pass at top of your class. Nobody's trying to recruit you until out of desperation, because now literally you graduated university at the age of 21. Now you are 23. 2 years later, you still haven't gotten a job. Now you gotta do anything at all to get ahead. And so what happens, guys? This was an abomination and a travesty that I used to see at MTN. You are just seeing literally a BCom accounting graduate, top of their class, that should be doing an internship at KPMG, working at a call center, go MTN. That's the kind of nonsense that's going on in the black community right now. You've got umuntu opase ibicom law, working at a call center at MTN, or scanning groceries at Pick and Pay, or working as a teller at Standard Bank. Still applying for an internship, Standard Bank, thinking that maybe if they get in via that job, they can get taken seriously. But for some strange reason, nobody's even trying to look at them. I have had so many dreams in the past where there was a time when I was throwing out my CVs like no man's business in the market. I have stopped, for years. And the Lord would show me that a CV yaga, when it lands in the inbox of a recruitment agent or even a company directly, it's like it's got red paint on it. Red paint. I saw my CV having red paint on it. The red always represents witchcraft in my dreams. Red paint, of which the Lord was showing me, is basically the coverage of my CV from ever being looked at with gladness by a prospective employer. The Lord saw it fit to allow that to happen, but He was showing me what in the world under heaven is causing a whole entirely skilled professional to just be overlooked by every place where she applies. Because gunabantu in your family, they've taken away your fortune, or at least what they think is your fortune, and they have gone on right ahead to thrive their own futures. such that every time you submit your CV, darkness, witchcraft is hovering over your CV to a point where it gets ignored. If anything, there was something of this nature going on for MTN when I was working there as a program coordinator and administrator. I used to work in an administrative capacity over project managers, right? Where it is that I used to be pretty much, I wasn't a project administrator, I was more like a program coordinator. I worked for the boss of the PMs. So there was a recruitment drive, a hard knock recruitment drive for hiring of project managers. And so I sometimes had access to see CVs that were coming through. Because I wanted to become a project manager, I would sometimes open these CVs to see what these people have done. To gauge what in the world it is that is going to be expected of me to finally get a job interview at MTN as a PM. And my boss, who was in a position to hire these project managers, and my boss's subordinates who were in a position, who were program managers, who were in a position to hire these project managers, would funnel these CVs through us, the coordinators, right? On some she never used to make us. She would send these CVs and tell us to upload them on some site and whatnot to look at later because they've been shortlisted. And then there were others that were not shortlisted. There were other CVs that were not shortlisted, right? And she would say that these ones, just bank them. Maybe we might call them in the future, but I don't want them. And I would go into both CVs, right? CVs of guys that have been shortlisted to be called for an interview, and the CVs of guys that were passed up by my boss. And guys, it was so shocking to see sometimes the CVs of the people that were passed up. And I, for the life of me, would be like, Kotolo Muntu has got all these years in project management. He's got this kind of degree. MTN ebatla vele electrical engineering that they wanted, or some form of engineering that they preferred, as well as IT and what have you. And this person would have all the credentials, including project management background and the right age that they were looking for, everything. And I'd be like, but why? And then I would also then open, there was one particular CV that stood out for me, the CV of a person that my boss was trying to consider. And it was so lackluster in comparison to one that was passed up that I was like, what's going on here? Is it because they're overqualified, or is it because that? But it literally did not make sense. But hey, it's your decision. I'm a coordinator. I don't get to make a decision as to who gets hired or not. But I went in there for my own education, my own edification, to see who is being taken up and who isn't. And I did not reach a conclusion as to what is the general thing that I need to work for. Because some guys were passed up that were absolutely perfect for the job, and others were taken up who were absolutely empty of void of real skill to be hired. So enough for me, I was like, I suga, whatever. This is not what I'm going to be looking at to gauge to basically curate a barometer for myself, to measure for myself what in the world under heaven it is that is likely to succeed me in the application of a job as a project manager. What was that? That was witchcraft. That was my boss basically under a spell where some person that does not deserve a promotion, does not deserve to be interviewed by MTN, is being looked at anyway, even though their CV sucked. Whereas another person who is perfectly skilled for the job, the absolute, hand to a glove fit, getting ignored. More witchcraft. The uncle has made a decision that Lenis aizotola agazo from Eastern Bank Eastern Bank afra in their job for another 10 years. Even though their CV was the one that made sense. Now, that whole phenomenon that I observed back when I was just a program coordinator in the early part of my career, now I understand what in the world was going on over there. That's what these people do. So, I mean, when that is your eventuality, when that is the thing that you're suffering from, when you are the highly qualified candidate that is perfect for a job, hand to glove, that gets looked at, that it gets glided past, that gets passed up, what eventually becomes of you? If you are not in Christ and you're not rooted, one of two things can happen to you. You will either give up and so therefore just settle in mediocrity because unalready bad, or you will in and of yourself go and consult a sangoma. One of three things actually. You will in and of yourself go and consult a sangoma to push your agenda along, to find out what's going on. Why do you have such bad fortune? Or you will repent, you will stay strong in Jesus Christ and wait for the day when he will give you justice against your uncle. So either you give up and you're complacent in mediocrity because everything keeps hitting the fan in your life. You become a spiritist in and of yourself to try and find a way out of this. You wait on Jesus. This one only is the one that rescues. Do you understand what I'm saying? If at all you become one of the first two categories, complacency, you just chill in your deep bad luck, in your deep body. The one where you eventually in and of yourself become a ritualist. You have offended God now in both of these states. Because with this one, you are like one who is burying your own talent in the ground, bearing fruit with it. You're not continuing to strive. You're not pushing anymore. You're doing just enough. I saw this happen. Where I was working alongside Njefela generally across the board. It is a thing where it is that you work for something for very long. And then because nothing gives, you then tell yourself, you're going to do just enough. I personally have done that before, where in the beginning of my career, where I was working Kodi call centering, the first, few weeks when I was there, I would work really hard and push because, hey, maybe I might just get a promotion or push myself on out of here. But I got lazy along the way because I hated the job so much. And despite applying for other jobs, I was getting nowhere. So what I did was the bare minimum. I did not push beyond what was absolutely necessary. All right. I was a sinner at the time, not yet saved by Jesus Christ. And so therefore I did wicked stuff like that. That's what's good. When people are blocking you from getting the promotion that you deserve because you are supposed to be doing much better and they leave you in a rote, mundane job that does not make sense for you, you will be demotivated. In theories, again, of motivation, when I was studying Gokovitz, another thing that demotivates people from continuing to work hard, being dictated to jobs that are very mundane or repetitive, like packing of boxes or reading from a teleprompter screen in a call center in order to do your job. These cause so much they deflate people so much and demotivate them so much that the job satisfaction in such environments as these is usually very, very low. And when job satisfaction is low, morale is low. When morale is low, you're not going to hit the targets that you want. You're not going to thrive and strive and do. But jobs that are very demanding to use your mind, like when you have to use your brain and you have to think and innovate and, contribute with all of the gifts that you have got. People are very motivated in these jobs, even if they don't pay very much. I actually had a job of that nature when I was working in the insurance industry as a claims consultant. It was not merely a call center job where I would read from a teleprompter telling me, say this to the client. Our boss used to encourage us to think deeper in basically paying claims, try and find loopholes in the whole system so as to discourage a client from even claiming at all, that they might, basically save the company money, but also without hurting the client and repudiating their claim. So we would discourage clients from continuing to claim by telling them that you might lose your no claims bonus, or it's going to take, you're going to have to start from scratch and it takes 3 years. You're almost at 3 years now. You are at year 2.5, and all that is a small little dent in your car. So fix it yourself, and at the end of this period, you're going to get this much money. So we had to do a lot more than just read off a screen. We had to think on our feet. All right. And I loved that job, even though it was just paying me 6,500 rands a month. I loved it. And the next job that I got was paying me 9,000 rands at Netbank. However, that one was just a road mundane reading from a screen, home loans insurance, and I could not stand it. It did not challenge me in the way that the previous one did. The previous one, I had 3,000 rands less in my pocket, yet I liked it more because it was tapping into my mind. It was asking me to think. And in theories of motivation, Govitz, in that book that I was studying in management, it proved that I was explained to why I felt that way. Even though I had more money in the Netbank job, I hated it in comparison to the Teleshore job. Why? Because the Teleshore job required me to use my mind, and I loved it, whereas the other one was just me reading off a screen and I couldn't stand it. Do you understand what I'm saying?